I stand in the church reception hall, wearing my best suit, holding a carefully wrapped gift. My daughter-in-law Amanda approaches me in her white wedding gown, flanked by her mother and bridesmaids. Her face twists with disgust. "You're just a mental patient," she hisses, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "Get out of here! You're embarrassing this family." My son, Thomas, stands frozen nearby, eyes downcast, saying nothing. I smile gently, set the gift on a table, and walk toward the exit, my heart breaking with each step. My name is Russell, and am 65 years old. For 38 years, I worked as a mechanical engineer at Boeing in Seattle. I wasn't anyone famous, didn't invent anything groundbreaking, but I was good at my job. I helped build things that flew, and that gave me pride. I lived a simple life in a 3-bedroom home in Tacoma with my wife, Margaret, and our son, Thomas. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. We had Sunday dinners, movie nights, backyard barbecues with neighbors. We had a life. Margaret passed away 4 years ago from ovarian cancer. We'd been married for 39 years. She was my best friend, my partner in everything. When the doctors gave us her diagnosis, we had 11 months together before she was gone. 11 months of hospitals, treatments, hope, despair, and finally, acceptance. I held her hand when she took her last breath. Thomas was there too. He was 28 then, working as a civil engineer, living in his own apartment downtown. We cried together that day, my son and I, in that sterile hospital room. After Margaret died, I thought I was handling things well. I threw myself into being a good father to Thomas, even though he was grown. I kept the house clean, maintained the yard, stayed busy, but about 6 months after her funeral, something inside me collapsed. I couldn't sleep for days at a time. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, seeing Margaret everywhere. Her pillow still smelled like her shampoo. Her clothes still hung in the closet. I'd set 2 plates at dinner out of habit, then stare at the empty chair across from me. I stopped eating. Food tasted like cardboard. I lost 23 pounds in 5 weeks. I'd sit in the garage and talk to Margaret's empty chair, having full conversations with someone who wasn't there. I knew it wasn't healthy, but I couldn't stop. The loneliness was crushing, physical, like drowning in an ocean with no shore in sight. Thomas noticed. Of course he did. He'd come over and find me unwashed, the house a mess, dishes piled in the sink. He got scared. He begged me to see someone, get help. I resisted at first. I'm from a generation where you handled things yourself, where therapy was something other people needed. But Thomas wore me down. He found a psychiatrist, a kind woman named Dr. Patricia Hammond, and he drove me to that first appointment himself. Dr. Hammond diagnosed me with complicated grief disorder. She explained that what I was experiencing was beyond normal mourning. She recommended I spend some time in a psychiatric care facility, voluntarily, to work through it intensively. I agreed. I was too tired to argue, too lost to find my way alone. I spent 3 weeks at Harmony Hills Care Center in Bellevue. It wasn't the scary place I'd imagined from movies. It was quiet, clean, with therapists and counselors and other people dealing with their own darkness. I attended group therapy sessions where widows and widowers shared their stories. I met with Dr. Hammond twice a day. They put me on temporary medication to help with sleep and anxiety. Slowly, I started to feel human again. The treatment helped. The therapy sessions taught me that grief doesn't have a timeline, that needing help isn't weakness. The group counseling showed me I wasn't alone in my pain. Other people had survived losing their spouses. They'd learned to live again, not forgetting their loved ones, but carrying them forward in healthier ways. By the time I left Harmony Hills, I felt genuinely better. Not healed completely. You never fully heal from losing someone like Margaret, but functional, ready to live again. I found new hobbies. I'd always liked working with my hands, so I took up woodworking. I built bookshelves, picture frames, small furniture pieces. I started volunteering at the local library, helping with their reading programs for kids. Life wasn't the same as before, but it was life. Thomas visited me every single day during my 3 weeks in treatment. He'd come after work, bring me books and magazines, sit with me in the common room, we'd play cards or just talk. He never made me feel ashamed. He never treated me like I was broken. He was the best son a father could ask for. 2 years after I left Harmony Hills, Thomas met Amanda. He was 32 by then, established in his career, ready to settle down. He brought her to my house for Sunday dinner on a cool October afternoon. I was excited to meet her. Thomas had dated before, but never anyone he wanted me to meet. This felt significant. Amanda arrived wearing expensive clothes, designer jeans, and a leather jacket that probably cost more than my monthly pension. She carried a purse with a logo I didn't recognize but assumed was pricey. She was beautiful. I'll give her that. Long, dark hair, perfect makeup, the kind of woman who turns heads. She smiled when Thomas introduced us, shook my hand with a firm grip. "It's so nice to finally meet you, Russell," she said. "Thomas talks about you all the time." We sat down to dinner, pot roast and vegetables, nothing fancy but home-cooked. Amanda asked polite questions about my work history, my hobbies, the house, but I noticed something in her eyes when she looked at me. Something cold, calculating, like she was assessing me, measuring my value, and finding me wanting. Thomas seemed infatuated. He laughed at everything Amanda said, watched her constantly, hung on her every word. I recognized that look. I'd had it myself once, in the early days with Margaret. But with Margaret, the feeling had been mutual. With Amanda and Thomas, I wasn't so sure. Over the following months, I tried to bond with Amanda. I invited them over for dinners regularly. I offered to help with anything they needed, fixing things in Thomas' apartment, advice about home buying, whatever. Amanda remained distant, she'd cancel plans last minute, claiming work emergencies or headaches. During dinners, she constantly checked her phone, barely engaging in conversation. She'd smile, say the right things, but there was no warmth behind it. 6 months into their relationship, I invited them over for Sunday dinner again. I'd made lasagna, Margaret's old recipe. Thomas loved it. We sat around the dining table, and the conversation turned to hobbies. I mentioned my woodworking. I made a beautiful jewelry box for Margaret during her final months. I said, remembering, mahogany wood, with carved roses on the lid. She kept it on her dresser. Amanda's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. She set it down carefully. "Is it true you were in a mental hospital?" she asked. The room went silent. Thomas' face drained of color. I kept my voice calm, steady. I was in a care facility for grief counseling after losing my wife. It helped me work through a very difficult time. Amanda's face showed something I can only describe as disgust. She didn't try to hide it. Her nose wrinkled slightly, like she'd smelled something rotten. "Oh," she said. "I see." She excused herself minutes later, claiming a headache. Thomas gathered their things quickly, apologizing, saying she'd been stressed at work. They left before dessert. That night, Thomas called me. For the first time in our lives, he sounded angry with me. "Dad, Amanda is really upset. You shouldn't have mentioned the jewelry box. The whole Margaret thing. It made her uncomfortable. I was just sharing a memory, son." "Well, maybe be more careful about what you share, okay? Amanda is sensitive about certain things." I hung up, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. Something had shifted in my relationship with my son, and I didn't know how to fix it. 1 year before the wedding that would change everything, Thomas and Amanda got engaged. I found out through a text message. Not a phone call, not an in-person announcement. A text. "Dad," Amanda said, "yes, we're engaged. More details soon." I stared at my phone, trying to push down the hurt. My only son was getting married, and I learned about it the same way I'd learn about a dentist appointment. The engagement party was held at Amanda's parents' mansion in Bellevue, one of those sprawling estates with gates and circular driveways. I arrived feeling out of place. The driveway was packed with luxury cars, BMWs, Mercedes, Teslas. I drove my 12-year-old Honda Civic and parked it at the end of the line, where it looked like someone's poor relative. Inside, the party was lavish. At least 80 guests mingled in a grand living room with cathedral ceilings and a chandelier that probably cost more than my house. Catered food filled tables along one wall, shrimp cocktails and fancy cheeses I couldn't pronounce. A live jazz trio played in the corner. Everyone wore expensive clothes and talked about vacation homes and country clubs. I met Amanda's parents for the first time. Gerald, her father, was a tall man in his 60s with silver hair and the kind of tan you get from golf courses and yacht decks. He shook my hand with a grip that felt perfunctory. "Russell, good to meet you," he said, already looking past me to other guests. "Quite a day, isn't it?" His wife, Patricia, insisted everyone call her Trish. She wore a designer dress and enough jewelry to fund a small car. She looked me up and down, and I saw the exact moment she cataloged and dismissed me. "What do you do, Russell?" she asked. "I'm retired. I worked as a mechanical engineer at Boeing for 38 years. "Oh, how nice. And before retirement, you were, what? Middle management." The way she said it made it clear she already knew the answer and found it unimpressive. "I was a senior engineer on several commercial aircraft projects." "How lovely." She drifted away to talk to someone more interesting. I spent the party nursing a glass of water, watching Thomas and Amanda. They moved through the crowd like royalty, accepting congratulations, posing for photos. Thomas looked happy, but there was something strained around his eyes. Amanda glowed, holding court, showing off her ring. At one point, I stood near the kitchen entrance and overheard Amanda talking to a young woman about her age. Probably a cousin. "Thomas is wonderful," Amanda was saying. "So stable. Such a good career. His father is, well, there were some issues. Mental health things. I'm just hoping it doesn't affect the wedding photos, you know." The cousin laughed. "Can you keep him in the back?" "That's the plan." I felt ice in my stomach. I quietly moved away before they could see me. Over the next months, Thomas became increasingly distant. Phone calls became rare. Our Sunday dinners stopped altogether. When I'd call, he'd claim he was busy with wedding planning. When I'd text, I'd get brief, distracted responses. I offered to contribute financially to the wedding. I had savings, not a fortune, but enough to help. Amanda's mother actually laughed when I made the offer. "Oh, that's sweet, Russell, but we have everything covered. This isn't the kind of wedding where, you know, everyone chips in." The wedding date was set without consulting me about my availability. I received a formal invitation in the mail 3 months before the event, like I was a distant acquaintance instead of the father of the groom. The invitation was thick, expensive cardstock with gold embossing. It listed Amanda's parents as hosts. Thomas' name appeared as the groom. My name didn't appear anywhere. I tried to talk to Thomas about feeling excluded. We met at a coffee shop halfway between our homes, neutral territory. "Son, I feel like I'm not part of this wedding at all. I don't know the plans. I haven't been asked for input. I haven't even seen the venue." Thomas rubbed his face. He looked tired, older than his 32 years. "Dad, Amanda and her mom are handling everything. They're really good at this stuff. It's easier to just let them do it. But I'm your father. Don't I get a say in anything? It's Amanda's day, Dad. I just want her to be happy. What about what you want? Are you happy?" He didn't answer that. He changed the subject. I met my old friend Frank for coffee at our regular spot, a diner near my house where we'd been going for 20 years. Frank had been Margaret's cousin, but had become my friend over the decades. He knew me well. "You look troubled," Frank said, stirring cream into his coffee. I told him everything. The distance with Thomas, Amanda's coldness, the feeling of being erased from my son's life. Frank listened, nodding occasionally. When I finished, he sighed. "Russell, sometimes you have to let your kids make their own choices, even when you see trouble coming. Thomas is a grown man. He has to learn his own lessons. But what if those lessons destroy him? Then you'll be there to help him pick up the pieces. That's what fathers do." 2 months before the wedding, my phone rang. Amanda's name appeared on the screen. Shed never called me directly before. My stomach clenched. "Hello, Russell. Thomas and I need to discuss something with you. Can you meet us tomorrow?" Her voice was cold, businesslike. This wasn't a friendly call. We met at a Starbucks, not my home, not their apartment. Neutral, public territory. They were already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table. Thomas looked miserable. Amanda looked determined. I sat down. Nobody ordered coffee. Amanda didn't waste time. Russell, Thomas and I need to discuss something important with you. My family is prominent in the community. We have a reputation to maintain. There are going to be a lot of important people at our wedding. Business associates of my father's, local politicians, community leaders. I waited. I knew where this was going. We need you to not mention your psychiatric history to any of the wedding guests. It's sensitive. People don't understand. They might get the wrong impression. I looked at Thomas. He stared at the table. Are you ashamed of me, son? Thomas' eyes filled with tears. He looked up, finally met my gaze. Dad, please, just do this for me. For us. It's one day. I felt something crack inside my chest. Something that had been holding me together. All right, I said quietly. I won't mention it. Amanda smiled, tight and controlled. Thank you. And one more thing. During photos, maybe stick to the back. We have a specific aesthetic we're going for. Very clean, very elegant. You understand? I understood perfectly. I wasn't elegant enough for their aesthetic. I was an embarrassment. I left that coffee shop feeling like I'd lost my son. The morning of the wedding, I woke at 5. I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed watching sunlight creep across the ceiling, thinking about Thomas as a little boy. I remembered teaching him to ride a bike in our driveway, running alongside him, letting go when he was ready. I remembered helping him with algebra homework at the kitchen table, both of us frustrated but laughing. I remembered his high school graduation, college graduation, his first engineering job. I'd been so proud. I got up and showered, shaved carefully, put on my best suit. It was the same one I'd worn to Thomas' college graduation. Navy blue. A little dated but clean and pressed. I looked at myself in the mirror and saw an old man trying to look presentable for a wedding where he wasn't wanted. I'd spent 2 weeks crafting a wedding gift in my workshop. A wooden music box, made from cherry wood, with an inlaid design of intertwined roses on the lid. Inside, it played canon in D. I'd engraved their names and the wedding date on the bottom. It was the best work I'd ever done. I wrapped it carefully in silver paper and white ribbon. The wedding was at an exclusive lakeside venue in Kirkland, overlooking Lake Washington. I followed my GPS down winding roads lined with expensive homes, finally reaching a gated entrance. I gave my name to the guard, who checked a list before waving me through. The venue was stunning. A white tent covered a lawn that sloped down to the water. White chairs in perfect rows faced an arbor covered in flowers. Ice sculptures flanked the entrance. A champagne fountain sparkled in the afternoon sun. Everything was perfect, elegant, expensive. I parked my Honda next to the luxury cars and felt immediately out of place. Guests arriving around me wore designer clothes, the women in elegant dresses and heels, the men in tailored suits. I recognized nobody. Inside the tent, I looked for my seat. A woman with a clipboard directed me to table 14. I found it near the back, close to the catering entrance, as far from the head table as possible, while still technically being inside the tent. I sat down with 7 strangers who introduced themselves politely, then ignored me. The ceremony began at 3. I watched from my distant seat as Thomas stood at the altar, looking handsome in his tuxedo. Amanda walked down the aisle in a dress that probably cost more than I made in a month at Boeing. She was beautiful. I couldn't deny it. They said their vows. People cried. I didn't. I felt numb. At the reception, I tried to approach Thomas and Amanda to congratulate them. Amanda's mother intercepted me like a defensive linebacker. Russell? They're doing photos now. Perhaps later. I retreated to table 14. I sat there for 2 hours, nursing a glass of water, watching Thomas and Amanda pose for endless photographs with Amanda's family. Her parents, her siblings, her grandparents, her aunts and uncles, her cousins, her friends. Nobody came to get me for family photos. I wasn't part of the aesthetic. Finally, there was a break. The photographer was adjusting equipment. Amanda and Thomas stood near the gift table, talking to guests. I saw my chance. I picked up my carefully wrapped gift and walked over. Amanda saw me coming. Her face changed instantly, hardening. "What are you doing here?" she said. I stopped, confused. "I'm at my son's wedding. I brought you both a gift." Her voice rose. People nearby turned to look. "You're just a mental patient. Get out of here. You're embarrassing this family." The words echoed across the suddenly quiet reception area. Conversations stopped. Heads turned. Someone gasped. I looked past Amanda to Thomas. He stood 15 feet away, close enough to hear everything, close enough to intervene. Our eyes met. I saw shame in his face, guilt, maybe even love. But he said nothing. He looked down at his shoes and stood frozen. Amanda's mother, Trish, stepped forward. "I think it's best if you leave, Russell. This is a private family event." My hands shook slightly, but I kept my voice steady. "Thomas is my family." Amanda's face twisted with contempt. "Has our family now. He doesn't need a crazy old man dragging him down." I set the music box on the gift table. I didn't say anything. I turned and walked toward the exit. The tent was silent except for my footsteps on the wooden floor. Every eye followed me. I kept my head up, shoulders back, and walked. In the parking lot, I fumbled with my keys. My hands were shaking now, the numbness wearing off, pain flooding in. I heard footsteps behind me. "Sir?" "Excuse me, sir." I turned. An older gentleman, maybe my age, approached. He wore an expensive suit and had kind eyes. "I'm Walter," he said, Amanda's uncle, her father's brother. "I want you to know that what just happened in there was disgraceful." I didn't trust my voice. I nodded. Walter pulled out a business card and pressed it into my hand. "I'm a family attorney. Something tells me you might need one." "That's not how family treats family." I looked at the card. Walter Chen, family law attorney. A downtown Seattle address. "I've seen Amanda's behavior before." Walter continued quietly. "I've watched her manipulate situations, hurt people. I've watched Thomas transform over the past year from a kind young man into someone I don't recognize. My brother Gerald and his wife raised Amanda to believe money and status are everything. She chose your son because he's handsome, successful, and malleable. But she'll destroy him if someone doesn't intervene." "Why are you telling me this?" I managed to ask. "Because I'm a father too. I have 2 daughters. If someone treated me the way Amanda just treated you, I'd want someone to help me fight back." I drove home in a daze. I kept replaying the scene. Amanda's voice calling me a mental patient. The guests staring. Thomas saying nothing. Doing nothing. I parked in my driveway and sat in the car for 20 minutes, unable to move. Finally, I went inside. I walked straight to my workshop and sat at my bench. I looked at my tools, the wood scraps, the projects in progress. Margaret's photo hung on the wall, smiling at me. "I lost him," I said to the photo. "I lost our boy." But even as I said it, something else stirred inside me. Not just grief, anger, not rage, but something colder, harder. Determination. I pulled out Walter's card and looked at it. The anger crystallized into resolve. Maybe I hadn't lost Thomas yet. Maybe there was still time to save him. But first, I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. I called Walter's cell number, printed on the card. He answered on the second ring. "Walter, this is Russell, from the parking lot. Can we talk?" "Yes," he said. "I was hoping you'd call. Come to my office Monday morning, 9 o'clock. We need to have a serious conversation about my niece." I hung up and sat in the silence of my workshop. The wedding had been today. The humiliation was fresh. But something had changed. I wasn't just a grieving father anymore. I wasn't just a man nursing his wounds. I was a father preparing to fight for his son. The weekend after the wedding was the longest of my life. I didn't hear from Thomas. No call, no text, no apology, nothing. I spent Saturday in my workshop, unable to focus on any project. I'd pick up a piece of wood, stare at it, put it down. My mind kept replaying the wedding, Amanda's words, Thomas' silence. Frank came by Sunday afternoon. He let himself in through the back door, the way he'd been doing for 20 years. "I heard," he said simply. News travels fast in a community. Someone at the wedding must have known someone who knew Frank. "Tell me what happened." I told him everything. Frank listened, his face growing darker. "That boy needs to remember who raised him," Frank said when I finished. "You didn't raise him to be a coward. Hes not a coward. Hes scared." "Of what?" "A woman. Of being alone. Like I was after Margaret died." Frank was quiet for a moment. "That's no excuse for letting someone humiliate his father." "I know, but I understand it." Sunday night, I sat in my living room, staring at my phone. I wanted to call Thomas, but pride and hurt held me back. Finally, at 11, I sent a text. "Son, I love you. Whatever happens, I'm here, always. Dad." I stared at the screen. The message showed as delivered, then read. But no response came. Not that night, not Monday, not Tuesday. Monday morning at 9, I sat in Walter's law office on the 14th floor of a downtown Seattle building. The office was elegant, wood-paneled walls, leather chairs, diplomas and certificates covering one wall. Walter sat behind a large desk, reading glasses perched on his nose. "Thank you for coming, Russell. Thank you for seeing me. And for what you said in the parking lot." Walter removed his glasses and leaned back in his chair. "I need to tell you some things about my niece. They're not pleasant. Some of them are speculation, but based on patterns I've observed over many years. I'm listening. Amanda has always been calculating. Even as a child, she knew how to manipulate people to get what she wanted. My brother Gerald spoiled her, gave her everything, taught her that image and money are what matter in life. Her mother, Trish, reinforced it. They created a young woman who views people as tools to be used for advancement." I nodded, not surprised. When Amanda brought Thomas home 2 years ago, I watched carefully. I saw how she controlled conversations, how she positioned Thomas as her perfect accessory. Handsome, educated, good career, from humble enough background that he'd be grateful for her attention. She chose him deliberately. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because after the wedding, I did some investigating. I have resources, connections. What I found concerns me greatly." Walter opened a folder on his desk. "Amanda has been pushing Thomas to get a large life insurance policy. $2 million. With Amanda as sole beneficiary." My blood went cold. "She's also been transferring money from their joint account to a private account Thomas doesn't know about. In the past 6 months, she's moved $47,000. How do you know this?" "I have a friend who works in banking. I asked him to look into some things." Quietly, Walter pulled out more documents. "But the most disturbing thing is this. Amanda is having an affair." He slid photographs across the desk. They showed Amanda with a man, not Thomas. The man was tall, athletic, wearing expensive workout clothes. In one photo, they were kissing in a parking garage. In another, they were entering a hotel together. "His name is Craig Brennan, stockbroker. They met at her gym. The affair has been going on for at least 8 months, which means it started before the wedding." I stared at the photos, feeling sick. "There's more," Walter said quietly. "I believe Amanda married Thomas as part of a calculated plan. His engineering background makes him useful for her father's development business. He can handle permits, inspections, regulatory issues. Once she gets him working for Gerald, she'll have positioned herself perfectly. And if something were to happen to Thomas, that life insurance policy pays out. You think shed, actually." I couldn't finish the sentence. "I think she's capable of anything. I've watched her destroy people who got in her way. I've watched her lie without hesitation." "Am I saying she's planning to hurt Thomas physically?" "I don't know. But the pattern concerns me. The insurance policy, the affair, the financial manipulation. It's not normal behavior for a newlywed." I sat back, overwhelmed. "Why are you telling me this? She's your niece." Walter's face hardened. "Because I'm a father too. I have 2 daughters. If someone treated me the way Amanda treated you, If someone was manipulating my child the way she's manipulating yours, it'd want someone to help me. Family should protect family. And right now, Thomas needs protection from the family he married into. What should I do? First, we gather more evidence. I want to hire a private investigator to document everything. The affair, the financial transactions, any other questionable behavior. We need undeniable proof before we approach Thomas. Why not just tell him now? Because Amanda will spin it. She'll say, I'm a bitter old man, that you're a jealous father trying to sabotage their marriage. Without solid evidence, Thomas won't believe it. Hez too deep in her web. I understood, but I hated it. Every day Thomas stayed with Amanda. Felt dangerous. How long will this take? A few weeks? Maybe a month? The investigator I have in mind is excellent. Fast, thorough, discreet. I nodded slowly. All right. Do it. Walter made some notes. In the meantime, try to rebuild your relationship with Thomas. Gently. Don't push too hard. If Amanda thinks you're a threat, she'll isolate him completely. I left Walter's office feeling like I was in a spy movie. Private investigators, affairs, financial manipulation. It seemed unreal, but the photos didn't lie. Neither did the bank records. That night, Tuesday night, 3 days after the wedding, my phone rang at 11:30. Thomas' name appeared on the screen. I grabbed it. Hello, Dad. His voice was shaking. Dad, can I come over? Of course. Are you all right? No. It'll be there in 20 minutes. I waited by the front window, watching for his car. When his headlights turned into my driveway, I opened the door. Thomas got out looking terrible. His eyes were red, his shirt rumpled, had been crying. We sat in the living room, the same room where I used to read him bedtime stories 30 years ago. I'm so sorry, Thomas said, his voice breaking. Dad, I'm so sorry. I should have defended you. I should have stopped her. I should have done something. All my anger melted. He was still my son. Still my boy. Come here, I said. He moved to sit next to me on the couch, and I put my arm around him like I did when he was young and scared of thunderstorms. Tell me what's happening, son. And he did. It poured out of him in a rush. Amanda had been controlling every aspect of his life for months. She monitored his phone, didn't like his friends, criticized his job constantly. She kept pushing him to ask her father for a position at the development company. She says, I'm not ambitious enough, that I'm wasting my potential as a civil engineer, that I could make so much more money working for her dad. Do you want to work for her father? No. I love my job. I love building infrastructure, designing systems. But she won't listen. Nothing I do is good enough. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was ashamed. Because after Mom died, I felt so lost. When Amanda came along, she was so confident, so sure of everything. I thought she'd fill that emptiness. I thought if I just tried harder, loved her enough, supported her enough, she'd love me back the same way. I recognized that pattern. I'd almost fallen into it myself after Margaret died. Son, let me tell you something I've never told you. After your mother passed, before the depression got bad, I almost started dating someone. Her name was Diane. We met in a grief support group. She was kind, understood my pain, but I realized I was seeking her out not because I loved her, but because I was terrified of loneliness. Thomas looked at me with red eyes. I had to learn to be okay with myself before I could be good for anyone else. You're doing what I almost did. You're holding on to someone because you're afraid of the alternative. But I married her, Dad. I made vows. And she broke those vows the moment she treated you with contempt, the moment she made you choose between her and your own father. Marriage is supposed to be a partnership, son. Does Amanda treat you like a partner? Thomas was quiet for a long time. No, she treats me like a project, like something to be fixed and improved and shown off. We talked until 3 in the morning. I wanted to tell him everything Walter had shown me. The affair, the money, all of it. But I remembered Walter's advice. Not yet, not without more evidence. When Thomas finally left, he hugged me at the door. I'm going to figure this out, Dad. I'm going to make it right. I know you will, son. I'm here. Whatever you need. I watched his taillights disappear down the street. Then I went inside and called Walter's cell phone, not caring that it was 3 in the morning. Walter, it's Russell. How fast can your investigator work? Very fast. Why? Because my son is breaking. We need that evidence now. Walter's investigator was a woman named Sarah Martinez. She met with me and Walter in his office 2 days later. She was in her 40s, professional, with sharp eyes that didn't miss anything. I've already started preliminary surveillance, she said, spreading photos across Walter's conference table. Amanda Brennan, formerly Amanda Patterson, age 28, works as a marketing executive at Harrison Pharmaceuticals. Married Thomas Russell 6 days ago. She pointed to a photo of Amanda leaving a downtown building. She meets Craig Brennan, her boyfriend, at the Marriott on 5th Avenue every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. She tells her office she's at client meetings. She tells Thomas she's working late. Meanwhile, Craig Brennan is a stockbroker at Merrill Lynch. Single, never married, drives a Porsche. They've been seeing each other for approximately 9 months. 9 months, I said. But they got married 6 days ago. Yes, she was actively maintaining this affair throughout her engagement to your son. Sarah showed more photos. Amanda and Craig at restaurants. Amanda and Craig at a movie theater. Amanda and Craig kissing in parking lots. What about the financial stuff? Walter asked. Sarah pulled out bank statements. Amanda has been systematically transferring money from the joint account she shares with Thomas. Small amounts at first, a few hundred here and there, but in the past 2 months, the transfers have increased. She's moved a total of $47,300 to a private account at a different bank. What's she spending it on? I asked. Luxury goods mostly. Designer clothes, jewelry, spa treatments. She's also made several payments to a company called Elite Lifestyle Consulting. I'm still investigating what that is, but initial research suggests it's a high-end dating service. My stomach turned. She's on a dating service? While married? It appears so, though she joined before the marriage. She hasn't canceled her membership. Walter leaned back in his chair. What about the life insurance? That's the really concerning part. Sarah pulled out more documents. 3 weeks before the wedding, Amanda pushed Thomas to sign up for a $2 million life insurance policy through her father's insurance broker. Thomas is the insured. Amanda is the sole beneficiary. The policy has a standard 2-year suicide exclusion clause, but otherwise pays out for any cause of death. $2 million, I whispered. It's a lot of money. Sarah agreed. Combined with the affair, the financial manipulation, it paints a troubling picture. We spent another hour going over details. Sarah had been thorough. She'd documented Amanda's movements, her spending, her meetings with Craig. She'd even obtained some text messages. How did you get text messages? I asked. Sarah smiled slightly. Amanda accidentally sent several texts to Walter's phone number, which is 1 digit different from her friend's number. Walter forwarded them to me. They're quite revealing. She showed us printouts, messages between Amanda and Craig. Can't wait to see you Tuesday. T is working late again, clueless as always. The wedding was exhausting. So fake. But I played my part perfectly. His crazy father showed up. Had to throw him out. So embarrassing. Each message felt like a punch. But the worst one came at the end. Craig, I'm doing this for us. 2 years and we're set. The life insurance, the development company connections, everything. T is just a stepping stone. I stared at that message for a long time. 2 years. She was planning to stay married to Thomas for 2 years, long enough to extract maximum benefit, then divorce him. Or worse. I need to show this to Thomas, I said. Not yet, Walter said. We need more. If we show him now, he might confront Amanda. She'll destroy the evidence, turn everything around, make herself the victim. We need to be strategic. I hated waiting. Every day Thomas stayed with Amanda felt like he was in danger. But I understood Walter's point. Over the next 3 weeks, Sarah continued surveillance. She documented 3 more meetings between Amanda and Craig. She discovered Amanda had been meeting with another man too. Someone named Marcus Riley who worked at her father's development company. I don't think it's romantic with Marcus, Sarah said in one of our updates. It looks more like planning. They have long lunches, spread documents across tables, take notes. I think they're plotting something business-related. Meanwhile, I focused on rebuilding my relationship with Thomas. We started meeting for coffee once a week, not at places near his home where Amanda might find out. At a diner near my house, our neutral territory. Thomas looked exhausted at these meetings. Dark circles under his eyes, weight loss, tension in his shoulders. She's getting worse, he admitted during our third coffee. Nothing I do is right. She criticizes everything. My clothes, my job, my friends. She wants me to quit engineering and work for her father. She brings it up every day. What do you want to do, son? I want my life back. I want to feel like myself again. I wanted so badly to tell him everything, but I held back, following Walter's strategy. Son, let me ask you something. Does Amanda make you feel good about yourself? Does she build you up or tear you down? Thomas stared into his coffee cup. She tears me down. Constantly. Your mother and I had hard times, I said carefully. Every marriage does. But we were partners. She never made me feel small. She never made me question my worth. Love should make you bigger, not smaller. I could see the words landing. Thomas nodded slowly. During this time, I also started rebuilding my own life. I'd spent 4 years focused on grief, then 2 years trying to hold on to Thomas. I'd forgotten to live. I joined a woodworking club that met Tuesday evenings at a community center. The members were mostly retired men like me, working on projects, sharing techniques, drinking coffee, and telling stories. I found friendship there, camaraderie. I increased my volunteer hours at the library. The kids in the reading program knew me now, would run up to me when I arrived. Mr. Russell, are you reading to us today? Their enthusiasm healed something in me. I also started attending a support group for parents dealing with difficult adult-child situations. Other fathers and mothers shared stories similar to mine, adult children making destructive choices, being manipulated by partners, cutting off communication. I wasn't alone. Frank noticed the change. We were having coffee one Saturday, our usual spot. You seem different, Russell. Stronger. I think being humiliated at that wedding woke something up in me. I've spent 4 years grieving Margaret, then 2 years trying to hold on to Thomas. Maybe it's time I remember who Russell is. I'm more than just a widower, more than just a worried father. That's good, Frank said. You can't save Thomas if you're drowning yourself. After 4 weeks of surveillance, Sarah called an emergency meeting. Walter, Sarah, and I met at Walter's office on a Friday evening. I have something, Sarah said, her face grim. She played an audio recording. Amanda's voice, crystal clear, talking on the phone. Craig, I'm telling you, it's perfect. Thomas is so easy to control. He does whatever I say. Once I get him working for Daddy's company, we'll have complete access to all the development deals. Thomas' engineering background will be perfect for handling permits and inspections. We can cut so many corners, save so much money, Craig's voice responded. And after 2 years, like we planned, the life insurance will have paid enough premiums to look legitimate. Then we figure out the rest. You're sure about this? Completely. Thomas is harmless, and his crazy father isn't going to be a problem. I took care of that at the wedding. They both laughed. I sat in Walter's office, trembling with rage, not just at what Amanda was planning, but at how she talked about Thomas, like he was nothing, like he was a tool. There's one more recording, Sarah said quietly. This one is worse. She played another clip. Amanda and Craig again, more recent. So the wedding went off perfectly, except for Thomas' pathetic father showing up. I had to throw him out. Called him a mental patient in front of everyone. Was that smart? Who cares? Has nobody. Sits in his little house building birdhouses or whatever. The whole family is pathetic, Thomas included. But he's useful. That's what matters. The recording ended. The office was silent. I want to kill her, I said quietly. No, you don't, Walter said. You want to expose her. You want justice. There's a difference. He was right. Rage wouldn't help Thomas. Strategy would. So what do we do? I asked. Before Walter could answer, my phone rang. Thomas' name appeared on the screen. It was 8 o'clock on a Friday night. Dad, can you come over? Now? Something happened. What's wrong? Just come, please. I drove to Thomas and Amanda's apartment, my heart pounding. Walter and Sarah followed in Walter's car. We arrived to find Thomas sitting on the front steps, looking shattered. Shez, at a work conference, he said dully. Or, that's what she told me. But I went to use our computer, and I found an email she forgot to delete. He handed me printouts. An email exchange between Amanda and a divorce attorney. The subject line read, Strategic Timeline for Dissolution. The email was dated 3 weeks before the wedding. The attorney had laid out a strategy: wait 2 years after marriage before filing for divorce, better financial settlement under Washington state law, maximize asset acquisition before separation, document every contribution to the marriage, protect premarital assets. There was more. Discussion of the life insurance policy. Suggestions for positioning Thomas as financially dependent on Amanda's family. Recommendations for creating a paper trail that would favor Amanda in any divorce proceedings. Thomas had been set up from the beginning. Dad, I don't understand. Why would she marry me if she was planning this? I looked at Walter. He nodded. Son, there's more. A lot more. And you need to see all of it. We went inside. Sarah set up her laptop on the dining room table. For the next 2 hours, we showed Thomas everything. The photos of Amanda and Craig, the bank records, the text messages, the audio recordings, all of it. Thomas cycled through emotions. Denial at first. There has to be an explanation. Then anger. How could she? Then heartbreak. Silent tears streaming down his face. Then rage. I want her to pay for this. By midnight, Thomas was eerily calm. I want everyone to know what she is, not just a quiet divorce. I want her exposed. I want her father to know, her mother, her friends, everyone who was at that wedding, everyone who watched her humiliate you, Dad. I want them all to see the truth. I felt both vindicated and worried. Revenge was tempting, but dangerous. Let's be smart about this, son. Let's talk to Walter about the best approach. Walter had been quiet, letting Thomas process. Now he spoke. There's a way to do this. Legal, public, devastating. But it requires perfect timing and absolute courage from you, Thomas. Tell me, Thomas said. Walter smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a strategist who'd just seen the winning move. Your in-laws are hosting their annual charity gala in 3 weeks. 400 guests. Saddle's elite, politicians, business leaders, media. Amanda will be there, playing the perfect daughter. And you'll be there too, as her husband. They always invite the honored couple to speak. Thomas understood immediately. You want me to expose her there, publicly, in front of everyone? Only if you're strong enough, Walter said. It will be brutal. People will try to stop you. Amanda will fight back. But the truth deserves a public hearing. She destroyed your father's reputation publicly. Turnabout is fair play. Thomas looked at me. Dad, what do you think? I thought about Margaret. I thought about the years Eid spent being ashamed of needing help. I thought about Amanda calling me a mental patient in front of hundreds of people. I thought about Thomas' broken face. I think the truth deserves light, I said. But only if you're ready for the consequences. This will hurt a lot of people. Including you. Good, Thomas said. Let it hurt. Maybe pain will wake some people up. We spent the rest of that night planning. The next 3 weeks were the hardest of Thomas' life. He had to go home every day to Amanda, pretend everything was normal, act like he didn't know about the affair, the manipulation, the plan to destroy him. He slept in the guest room, claiming work stress. Amanda barely noticed, too busy with her own life. Thomas and I met every day, sometimes just for coffee, sometimes for hours in my workshop. I taught him woodworking, something I should have done years ago. We built things together, sanded wood, didn't always talk. Sometimes silence was enough. How are you holding up? I asked one afternoon. I feel like I'm living with a stranger. Worse, a predator. Every time she talks to me, I hear those recordings in my head. Thomas is so easy to control. I want to confront her every second. But Walter says wait. Wait for the gala. Walter's right. If you confront her now, she'll have time to prepare, to spin the story. This way, the truth comes out all at once, undeniable. Frank came by one evening, while Thomas and I were working. Had become part of our support system, checking in, offering encouragement. You're doing the right thing, Frank told Thomas. I know it doesn't feel like it. I know it feels cruel, but sometimes the most loving thing you can do is expose a lie before it destroys more people. Sarah continued surveillance right up to the gala. Amanda met Craig 4 more times. She had 2 more long lunches with Marcus Riley, the guy from her father's company. Sarah even recorded another conversation between Amanda and her mother, discussing how to manage Thomas' career transition once they got him working for Gerald. It's all about control, Walter explained during one of our strategy sessions. Amanda's whole life has been about manipulating people. Her parents taught her that's how the world works. Now we're going to show her what happens when the people you manipulate fight back. The night before the gala, Thomas came to my house. We sat in the living room. The same room where Id comforted him after Margaret died. The same room where Head cried about Amanda weeks ago. Dad, I'm scared. What if I can't go through with it? Then we walk away. We file for divorce quietly. You start over. No shame in that. But you wouldn't get justice. She humiliated you in front of everyone. Son, this isn't about me getting revenge. This is about you finding your voice. When Amanda insulted me at the wedding, you said nothing. You need to say something now. Not for me. For you. For your own self-respect. What if people think I'm cruel? What if they say I'm just as bad as her? I thought about that. There's a difference between cruelty and truth. Cruelty is what Amanda did, tearing someone down for no reason except spite. Truth is showing people who someone really is. You're not being cruel, you're being honest. And sometimes honesty feels harsh because we're so used to lies being comfortable. Thomas nodded slowly. Okay. I can do this. You sure? I'm sure. The night of the gala arrived. It was held at the Harbor Club, a waterfront hotel with panoramic views of Puget Sound. 400 guests, all dressed in formal attire, sipping champagne, admiring the silent auction items. A live band played jazz. Everything sparkled. I arrived wearing a new suit Thomas had insisted on buying me. Dark charcoal, perfectly tailored, expensive. You're going to look like you belong there, Dad. Because you do belong there. Walter met me at the entrance. Sarah was already inside, positioned with recording equipment, ready to document everything. Amanda saw me across the room. Her face flashed confusion, then anger. She cut through the crowd toward me, her gown shimmering. What are you doing here? I kept my voice calm, polite. I was invited. I'm a guest, just like everyone else. You're not invited. This is a private event. Actually, I invited him. Walter appeared beside me. Russell is my guest. I'm on the charity board. I can invite whoever I want. Amanda's face went red. She looked around for Thomas. Spotted him talking to some business associates near the bar. She stormed over. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I saw Thomas' face. Cool. Controlled. He said something that made Amanda's eyes widen. Then he turned and walked away. The evening progressed. Dinner was served. Elaborate courses of food I couldn't taste. My stomach was too knotted with tension. The silent auction closed. The live auction began. Gerald, Amanda's father, worked the room like the politician he should have been. Shaking hands, making jokes. Then came the speeches. Gerald took the stage, microphone in hand. He thanked everyone for coming, praised the charity, talked about community values and giving back. The irony wasn't lost on me. Then he invited Amanda and Thomas up. My daughter and her wonderful new husband have been so generous to this cause. Let's hear from them. Amanda climbed the stairs to the stage, glowing in her designer gown. Thomas followed, his face unreadable. Amanda spoke first. She thanked everyone, talked about the importance of the charity's work helping children with learning disabilities. She mentioned her wonderful family, gestured to her parents, She talked about being blessed, about giving back to the community. Then she handed the microphone to Thomas. For a moment, he just stood there, holding it. The room waited. 400 people, silent, expectant. Thomas took a breath. Thank you all for coming tonight. This charity does important work, and I encourage everyone to give generously. He paused. I saw his jaw tighten. But I want to share something else. Something personal. Because this charity is about truth, about helping people who've been silenced. And I think truth matters. Amanda's smile faltered. She must have heard something in his voice. 6 weeks ago, I discovered that my wife has been having an affair for the past 9 months. The room erupted. Gasps, whispers, shocked faces. Amanda's face went white. I also discovered she's been systematically stealing money from our joint accounts. $47,300, to be exact. I discovered that she married me as part of a calculated plan to benefit her family's business. And I discovered she's been planning to divorce me once she's extracted maximum financial value. All of this is documented. Bank records, text messages, photographs, audio recordings. My attorney has everything. The whispers became a roar. Gerald started moving toward the stage, his face purple. Trish stood frozen, mouth open. Thomas held up a hand. The room quieted slightly. But more than the affair, more than the money, I want people to know what my wife did to my father. He pointed directly at me. 400 heads turned. 6 weeks ago, at our wedding, Amanda publicly humiliated my father. She called him a mental patient. She told him to leave. She treated him like garbage. Why? Because after my mother died, my father sought help for his grief. He went to therapy. He worked through his pain in healthy, brave ways. And my wife decided that made him an embarrassment. I felt tears on my face. My father is the best man I know. He raised me alone after my mother's death. He taught me integrity, kindness, perseverance, and I let my wife destroy him. I stood there at my wedding and said nothing while she tore him apart. That's my shame. That's my failure. But I'm not failing him anymore. Amanda grabbed for the microphone. This is insane. Hes lying. Hes having some kind of breakdown. Thomas held the microphone away from her. His father is mentally ill. This is clearly hereditary. He needs help. Thomas pulled out his phone, already connected to the sound system. Walter had set it up in advance. Amanda's voice filled the ballroom, crystal clear from the speakers. Thomas is so easy to control. He does whatever I say. His crazy father sits in his little house building birdhouses or whatever. The whole family is pathetic. Thomas is harmless. Just a tool. Just a stepping stone. The audio played for 90 seconds. Every word, every laugh, every cruel dismissal. The ballroom was absolutely silent, except for Amanda's recorded voice mocking the man she'd married, mocking me, laying out her plans. When the audio stopped, the silence was deafening. Amanda was crying now, mascara running down her face. Please, this is out of context. You don't understand. But Walter stood up from his seat. I'm Walter Chen, Amanda's uncle. Also an attorney. Everything Thomas said is true and documented. I've watched my niece manipulate and deceive for years. I couldn't stay silent anymore. Some of you know me, know my reputation. I wouldn't be here if this wasn't legitimate. The room exploded again. People standing, arguing, some rushing toward the exits. Amanda ran off the stage, her friends following. Trish went after her. Gerald stood at the base of the stage, staring up at Thomas with undisguised hatred. But Thomas wasn't done. Gerald, you taught your daughter that people are tools to be used. That image matters more than character. You created this. You raised her to believe money and status are everything. And I'm done being part of it. Then Thomas walked off the stage, straight through the crowd, directly to me. In front of 400 people, he hugged me. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry I didn't protect you. But I'm protecting you now. I'm protecting us both. I held my son while he cried. The ballroom buzzed with shocked conversations. Camera phones were out everywhere, recording, photographing. This would be all over social media within hours. Then something unexpected happened. Someone started clapping. Walter. He stood at his table, applauding slowly. Then others joined. Not everyone. Not even half the room. But enough. A scattered applause that grew slightly, acknowledging not the drama, but the courage, the truth. I looked around at the faces. Some were shocked. Some were angry. Some were sympathetic. But they'd all heard the truth. They couldn't unhear it. Amanda's carefully constructed image had shattered in front of everyone who mattered to her. Justice, I realized, didn't always feel satisfying. It felt complicated, messy, painful, but it felt necessary. 3 months after the gala, I sat in my workshop on a Saturday morning, sanding a piece of maple wood. Sunlight streamed through the window. The radio played oldies. I felt peaceful. The aftermath of the gala had been intense. The story spread through Seattle's social circles like wildfire. Videos from people's phones showed up on social media. Local news picked it up, though they protected Thomas' identity. Charity gala turned dramatic confrontation, the headlines read. Amanda's family threatened legal action at first. Gerald hired expensive lawyers, talked about defamation suits, but when Walter presented the complete evidence file, they backed down. The audio recordings, text messages, photographs, bank statements, all of it was real, documented, undeniable. Their lawyers advised them to settle quietly and hope the scandal faded. The divorce proceedings moved quickly. Amanda fought at first, tried to claim Thomas was mentally unstable, threw accusations around wildly, but the court-ordered psychiatric evaluation showed Thomas was perfectly healthy, just traumatized by months of emotional abuse. The evidence of the affair and financial manipulation was overwhelming. Even Amanda's own attorney eventually advised her to settle. The final agreement split their assets 50-50. Thomas kept his pension and retirement accounts. The life insurance policy was canceled. Most importantly, Thomas was free. I watched my son go through those months with a mix of pride and heartbreak. He moved out of the apartment, head shared with Amanda, refused to ever go back there. He found a new place closer to mine, a small 2-bedroom with a view of the water. He threw himself into work, earned a promotion at his engineering firm. He reconnected with old friends Amanda had pushed away, and he started therapy. Voluntarily. If you could do it, Dad, so can I. I need to process everything. The manipulation, the betrayal, why I let it happen. I don't want to repeat these patterns. I was so proud of him. Our Sunday dinners became a tradition again. Thomas would come over, we'd cook together, eat at the same table where Id raised him. We worked on projects in my workshop. I taught him woodworking properly, techniques I should have shared years ago. We built a bookshelf together, a coffee table, small things that required patience and care. We talked openly now about everything. About Margaret, about loneliness, about mistakes and forgiveness. One Sunday, about 2 months after the gala, Thomas brought up something that had been bothering him. Dad, were you ashamed when you needed help after Mom died? When you were in the care facility, I thought about it. For a long time, yes, I was ashamed that Id needed help. Ashamed that I couldn't handle grief on my own. Ashamed that I'd been in that facility. But not anymore. Not anymore. You know what I learned? There's no shame in being human. There's no shame in hurting. The shame is in how we treat people who hurt. Amanda tried to use my mental health treatment as a weapon, as proof I was less than. But that says everything about her and nothing about me. Thomas nodded slowly. I let her make me feel ashamed of you. That's the part I can't forgive myself for. You were lost, son. We all get lost sometimes. What matters is finding your way back. I found my way back because of you, because you showed me what real strength looks like. Not pretending you're fine when you're not hiding your struggles, but facing them, getting help, coming out stronger. 6 months after the gala, Thomas met someone new. Her name was Helen. She was 30 years old, a teacher at an elementary school in Bellevue. They met at a community event, one of those volunteer things Thomas had started doing as part of his healing process. Helen was different from Amanda in every way. She wore simple clothes, laughed easily, asked genuine questions, and actually listened to the answers. When Thomas brought her to meet me, she asked about my woodworking and spent an hour in my workshop, genuinely interested in the craft. Over dinner, she mentioned her own mother had gone through depression years ago. "There's nothing to be ashamed of," Helen said matter-of-factly. "Taking care of your mental health is brave. My mom always says going to therapy was the best decision she ever made. It gave her tools to handle life." I watched Thomas' face light up. He looked relaxed, genuinely happy. Not the tense, trying too hard happiness had shown with Amanda. Real contentment. My own life had changed too. The gala incident, strangely, had brought me local recognition. Several people reached out afterward, sharing their own stories of family betrayal, mental health struggles, recovery. I started volunteering with a mental health advocacy group, speaking at community centers about grief, recovery, and the importance of seeking help. I spent years hiding a simple truth. I told audiences that Id needed help and gotten it, but that truth has no power over me anymore. Am not ashamed. Am proud. I survived the worst pain of my life, and I came through it stronger. The response was overwhelming. People would approach me after speeches, tears in their eyes, thanking me for being honest. Some were dealing with their own mental health struggles. Some had family members who needed help. My story gave them permission to seek support without shame. Walter and I became close friends. We met weekly for coffee, talked about everything from politics to philosophy to family. Had become the brother Id never had. Frank remained constant too, proud of how everything had turned out. I joined a men's support group for widowers, helping others navigate grief. I realized I had wisdom to share, experience that could help people who were where I'd been 4 years ago. My life became full. Friends. Purpose. A healed relationship with my son. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living. 1 year after the wedding that had broken my heart, Thomas asked if he could come over on a Sunday afternoon. I knew something was up. He had that nervous energy that reminded me of when he was 12 and had to tell me Head dented the car with his bicycle. We sat on my back porch, overlooking the small garden Id planted. "Dad, I want to ask Helen to marry me." My heart leapt. "That's wonderful, son. But I want to do it right this time. I want your blessing. I want you involved in every step. I want you standing next to me. I want this to be real, not some performance for other people. You don't need my blessing, Thomas, but you have it, completely. Helen is wonderful. She's kind, genuine. She makes you happy. That's everything." Thomas proposed to Helen a week later. Nothing fancy, no elaborate production. They went to a park at sunset, just the two of them. He got down on one knee, said honest things about loving her, wanting to build a life together. She said yes, crying and laughing. They announced the engagement quietly. No big party, no social media spectacle. Helen called me herself to share the news. "Russell, I'm so happy. Your son is the best man I've ever known. He learned from the best woman I ever knew, his mother." The wedding was planned for the following spring. Small ceremony, close friends, and family only. Helen insisted it be held in my backyard garden, which Thomas and I spent months preparing. We built an arbor together, planted flowers, created a space that felt intimate and meaningful. Helen asked if I would officiate. I got ordained online, studied how to perform ceremonies, took the responsibility seriously. 2 days before the wedding, I sat in my workshop building something new, a wooden cradle, crafted from cherry wood with hand-carved details, anticipating grandchildren someday. Thomas came in, sat down on the stool next to my workbench. We didn't speak for a while, comfortable in the silence. I sanded the cradle's curves, careful, methodical. Finally, Thomas spoke. "Dad, I need to say something. What happened with Amanda, the wedding, all of it, I think it happened for a reason." "What do you mean?" "I think I needed to lose myself to find myself. I needed to hit bottom to realize what actually matters. You showed me that. When Amanda humiliated you and you walked away with dignity. When you built yourself back up, when you fought for me even when I didn't deserve it. You taught me what real strength is." I stopped sanding, looked at my son. Had grown so much in this year. Not just older, but wiser, stronger in ways that mattered. You taught me something too, son. You taught me it's never too late to speak up, to stand up for yourself. I spent too long being quiet, accepting disrespect because I thought I had to, because I thought peace meant avoiding conflict. But we both learned the difference between choosing peace and accepting abuse. We did. Together. We hugged, both of us emotional. Two men who'd been broken and put themselves back together. Not perfectly, but honestly. The wedding 2 days later was everything the first one wasn't. Intimate, genuine, full of love. About 40 people in my backyard, sitting in chairs under string lights as the sun set. I stood under the arbor Thomas and I had built, watching him and Helen hold hands. I performed the ceremony, my voice steady and sure. Thomas and Helen, you stand here today not because of appearances or expectations, but because you chose each other. You see each other clearly, flaws and all, and you choose to build a life together. That's what marriage really is. Not a performance, a partnership. They said their vows, simple and honest. They exchanged rings. I pronounced them married, and everyone cheered. At the reception, which was just dinner at long tables in the yard, Frank gave a toast. To Thomas and Helen, and to Russell, who showed all of us what it means to fight for the people you love, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Later that night, after the guests had left and Thomas and Helen had driven away to their honeymoon, I sat on my porch alone. The string lights still glowed. The garden smelled like roses. I thought about Margaret. I wondered what she'd think of everything that had happened. I think she'd be proud. Proud of Thomas for finding his voice. Proud of me for not giving up on our son. I thought about Amanda too. Not with anger anymore, but with something closer to pity. She'd been raised to believe people were tools, that manipulation was strategy. She'd lost a good man because she couldn't see his value. That was her tragedy, not mine. I thought about the lessons this year had taught me, about the difference between silence and dignity, about the importance of speaking truth, even when it's uncomfortable, about the courage it takes to ask for help and the strength that comes from healing. People will tell you that silence is dignity, that walking away is strength, and sometimes it is. Sometimes choosing peace over conflict is the wise move. But there's a difference between choosing peace and accepting disrespect. There's a difference between being the bigger person and making yourself smaller to fit someone else's idea of who you should be. I learned that you can be kind without being weak. You can be forgiving without being a doormat. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for someone is tell them the truth. Even when that truth is hard. Even when it means conflict. Even when it costs you something. Thomas and I both learned that lesson. We learned it the hard way, through pain and humiliation and heartbreak. But we learned it together. And now we're both free. Not free from pain. Life always brings pain, but free from the prison of other people's judgments and expectations. Free to be exactly who we are, mental health struggles and all, grief and all, imperfections and all. That's the real victory. Not revenge, not vindication, just freedom. The freedom to be yourself, completely, honestly, and to surround yourself with people who love you not despite those things, but as a complete person who includes those things. That's what family really means. Not the people who share your blood necessarily, but the people who see all of you and choose to stay. My son chose to stay. He chose me, and I chose him. That's love. That's what matters. Everything else is just noise. I sat on that porch as the stars came out, feeling more at peace than I had in years. My son was happy. I was healthy. We had each other. We'd survive the worst and come out stronger. That's all any of us can ask for. Now I have a question for you, those of you listening to this story. Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and speaking your truth? Have you ever stayed silent when you should have spoken up? Or spoken up when others told you to stay quiet? How did you find the balance between dignity and self-respect? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched you, if it made you think about your own relationships, your own choices, your own courage, please hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel for more stories about real people facing real challenges. And share this with someone who might need to hear it. Someone who's struggling with whether to speak up or stay silent. Someone who's being treated with disrespect and doesn't know if they deserve better. They do. We all do. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of this community. May you all find the courage to speak your truth, the strength to walk away from what diminishes you, and the wisdom to know the difference. Take care of yourselves. And remember, seeking help isn't weakness. It's the bravest thing you can do.